The Omega Beam. Full power.
Welcome to the Omega Beam, number 196. I'm your host, Oren Merton. Whether someone follows the genre or not, they probably hear of the big tentpole movie releases from Marvel and Lucasfilm, DC Comics, Star Trek films, Middle-earth films. You get the idea. All the big budget movies. But every now and again, a little indie genre movie will manage to make a huge impact on the world at large outside of this genre. So Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, starring Michelle Yeoh, was one of those movies. It made over $100 million worldwide, and it was made for just a fraction of that. So it was highly profitable, highly hyped, and it's been making the rounds of all the award shows as well. So there's no way we couldn't discuss this movie. We start out spoiler-free and give ample warnings before we go into spoilers. So let's get to it. I am here with Golden to talk about the indie movie Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, which is a film that kind of began under our radar, but then everybody but everybody who writes for blogs in the sci-fi space or does YouTube videos or whatever started talking about how this is like the most amazing multiversal sci-fi type film ever, and they were singing its praises, especially considering it's such a low budget film. It was the reintroduction of the actor who played Short Round into film, that Michelle Yeoh was absolutely stunning, that Jamie Lee Curtis was doing amazing work, and we didn't catch it for quite a while, but once it started streaming, we did catch it. So, what do you think?
I thought it was entertaining. It was good. I didn't quite love it as much as all of the reviews and everyone else seemed to.
One of the things I think about movies that get kind of overhyped is it is really easy to get your expectations set so high.
No, I don't think I had any expectations for it. If anything, I didn't know what to expect, and that was fine. It wasn't what I expected. It went in a different direction than I thought they were going to take it, just from some of the things that I read. But it, like you said, the cast was excellent. I enjoyed the characters. It just, as a whole, it was okay for me. It wasn't the greatest of movies I saw last year.
Yeah, I had read that it was a really emotional movie. And I get it. I understand why they say that. But I think, again, it's like your expectations. I think I was expecting it to be this massive tearjerker. And maybe because I was expecting it, it didn't hit me quite that way. I do see what they were talking about, though, in the sense that this is as multiverse hopping as the other big multiverse movie that had come out recently, which was Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. But whereas Doctor Strange was this hopping universe experience in order to save the universe, this one was too, but it was really a family drama at its heart. And that is great in the sense that it made the stakes incredibly personal. And so I completely understand why people who were really into it said that it's this deep emotional movie. But you did have to identify or feel with or feel for the family that was at the center of it, or else that emotional impact would not hit you the same way. And I agree that Michelle Yeoh she's been a treasure for decades now. She's certainly not a secret, especially in genre, though she started in the action genre, not sci-fi fantasy. But she's certainly not a secret, and she is absolutely amazing. And I do think she does a great job of carrying this movie, because it is her movie. I mean, she is the central character in this movie. In all the multiverses, it's kind of about her. And I thought that the supporting cast did a really, really wonderful job of supporting her. this is a movie that I think if you give the plot away, you give too much away. So
Oh, I read the plot.
yeah, I did not read.
I read the plot, and I don't think that actually influenced how I felt about the movie.
Yeah, I came in without knowing really anything other than the hype. In the non-spoiler section, to just give a bit of the plot, basically Michelle Yeoh plays a woman who has a fairly rough life. She's trying to run a laundromat. Her marriage is failing. She has an estranged relationship with her daughter, and she finds herself suddenly drawn into this huge multiversal adventure in which she's the only one who can save not just the universe but the multiverse. And it's definitely a really creative story, and it's especially, it looks beautiful considering that this is a very low budget film. I mean, this was not your multi-$100 million budget. I think its budget may have been like $20 million or something that, I mean, these days is like just a total indie film. But all that money is on the screen. It's beautiful. And that, and obviously getting actors who are incredibly skilled and incredibly talented, but not charging $20 million themselves to be in a movie.
Reviewing some of the trivia, of course, on IMDb. And both of us, I know, originally said that it was nice to see Michelle Yeoh finally get something like this. And she makes a comment about, on this one trivia, saying how as you get older, the box gets smaller. But I feel like over the last few years, her box has gotten bigger.
Yeah. And that's great. And I think it comes from the fact that she truly is one of the best action actors in the business. So she can really do all the stuff you see her do.
Yeah, she probably doesn't do all of it anymore.
Right. I mean, I'm sure there's some that she lets the people half her age do.
One of the things that probably helped keep the cost down, according to the trivia on IMDb, basically all the VFX for the film was done by 9 people, including the directors. And none of them went to school for it. They kind of taught themselves how to do it.
Hey, good for them. And yeah, this movie looked beautiful. I mean, you don't see this movie and think, oh, well, if it only had a budget, it would have been a good movie. I mean, it has the level of effects it needs to have. And it looks great. It maybe isn't quite as, photoreal and textured or whatever as you'd get in a Marvel movie or a Star Trek or Star Wars thing, but it doesn't need that. I mean, this isn't that kind of movie. So I think its effects were exactly where it needs to be. And it does try and bring a more original, innovative type of story than, a movie that's adapting a comic, all that's already been done, or that's trying to tell a more kind of standard, if you will, adventure story. So I give them a lot of credit for that. And yeah, we do live in a time where a lot of the movies that get greenlit in the genre tend to be either adapted from written works, or they tend to be established franchises and IP that have been around for a very long time and that they know will return their investment, because these movies take a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money to look the way they need to look in this era to compete. And so whenever something comes up like this, brand new, innovative, out of the gate, for next to no money and an original idea, I think that's fantastic. And I think we need to support it. Even if it's not the single greatest film that's ever been made, I think the fact that this movie got made is fantastic. And it was enjoyable, even if it wasn't, our favorite movie of the year. So I think that pretty much covers the non-spoilery section. Getting spoilery, one of the things I did like about, or I guess I should say 3, 2, 1, spoilers. One of the things I did like about the relationship between Jamie Lee Curtis and Michelle Yeoh is when you first meet the Michelle Yeoh character, she doesn't really know the IRS agent that is the Jamie Lee Curtis character. And as I did really like how as the movie progresses and you suddenly see the Jamie Lee Curtis character trying to assassinate the Michelle Yeoh character, and you realize it's because in one of those universes, they were deeply in love. And it's actually love and bitterness that is making the Jamie Lee, that turned her character into an assassin. And that when they sort of work through that, she's no longer an assassin. I thought that arc, to me, really heartfelt. And obviously the relationship between Michelle Yeoh and her daughter, but I thought that one was also just a little bit more abstract and absurd. So that never landed on me the way I think that it was supposed to land, and the way the people who were hyping it made it sound like it was going to land.
I enjoyed how their relationship developed in the movie. That was definitely one of the things that I did very much like about it.
I really liked the way it all worked out in the end. I will say, I mean, I love me some absurdist stuff, so it's not that it was the fact that it was absurd bothered me or anything. I didn't think jumping into the bagel and trying to keep her out of the bagel was quite had the emotional weight that they were trying to give that scene, because they're trying to, I think, balance really emotional while also being absurd. And I think it can be done, but I'm not sure they quite achieved it. But other than that, like I said, I was really gratified to see that movies like these can still get made. It was a great movie. I'm really glad that they're winning, they did win some like Gold Globes and stuff. I think Jamie Lee Curtis won. And I love that it was nominated for a bunch of Acting Academy Awards, and I think original screenplay or whatever. And I think that's great, and I think it deserves it. I'm glad it's getting some attention, maybe even Best Picture. I don't follow awards very much, but I'm really glad it's getting the attention it's getting. And I hope what it does lead to is more interesting and diversified and creative sci-fi.
And according to the trivia in IMDb, that $25 million budget is false. They actually had a budget of about $14.3 million.
Really?
Yeah.
So even smaller.
The producer said that it was actually smaller, and I guess they joke around that it's 1/14 the estimated budget of Multiversal Madness. So I guess the directors like to joke that, quote, they made the movie for the cost of Marvel's catering budget.
They probably did. Wow, that makes it even more impressive, because like I said, when you...
Well, a lot of money goes into VFX.
Yeah.
And if you only have 9 people doing it, chances are you're going to be able to keep your costs way down.
I mean, there is literally only one effect in the entire film that I can recall. When I watched it, I was like, okay, I get it, but yeah. And it's not a visual effect so much as a costuming effect. But one of the universes they fly into, the one in which Jamie Lee Curtis and Michelle Yeoh's characters are truly in love, it is a universe where they have basically hot dogs for hands. They just look so floppy. It's clearly they're wearing, just gloves. And they're just so floppy and unmanipulatable. And that's supposed to be part of the gag, but, I don't know. I wonder if they would have had a larger budget, the gloves could have been a little bit better. But, it's fine. I enjoyed the love story and was able to look past the gloves.
It was nominated for a lot of different BAFTA, Academy Awards, AACTA, AARP.
Okay.
It won. Michelle Yeoh won for Best Actress for Movies for Grown-Ups Award.
Okay. Well, yeah, she's not a young lady anymore.
And it was the AFI Movie of the Year. The Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, it won for Best Fantasy Film, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor. So there's a couple others that they won the awards for, but there's a lot of nominations.
Yeah, this is the kind of movie that I would recommend anyone who likes the genre see, just because it's a great touchstone. And so much great stuff went into this movie. If like us, you've already heard all the hype and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to see it just because it's so hyped. No, really, it's a good movie. You're going to enjoy it. Forget about the hype.
Just because it wasn't for me doesn't mean that those other people that experienced it as being one of the best movies of the year that it's not for them.
Absolutely. I'm just suggesting people don't go in automatically expecting it to be, because I do think that if you go in with too high expectations to any film, not just this one, but if you go in with your expectations too high, it becomes unfortunately easy to have it not live up to them, just because your expectations are high enough that even a great movie won't live up to it. So go in with an open mind, both don't believe the hype, but also believe that it's going to be good. And just go in with that you're going to have a good time.
Yeah, just go in and have fun. Have fun watching the movie.
Exactly.
Have fun for all the craziness that is it.
Right. And be glad that movies like these are being made, and support movies like this being made. Because I love me some Marvel movies, I love me some DC movies and some sci-fi movies, and give me Star Trek and Star Wars and Doctor Who and all the movies. I mean, this thing doesn't have the budget of a single episode of a Star Wars TV show.
And with that, I think that this podcast is over.
Thank you, Golden.
You're welcome.
And that's it for this episode. You can find the show notes at theomegabeam.com/196. If you liked this episode, please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Your reviews help people who like this stuff find our podcast. If you have any comments or suggestions, please drop us a line at info@theomegabeam.com. Be good to yourselves and each other, and we'll catch you next time.
The Omega Beam. The Omega Beam. Full stop.